So you're now no longer are you necessarily keeping those private files in some file cabinet that's locked in the basement of the house. It's on your laptop, and it's then therefore up here in this cloud that exists above us, right? Mm-hmm. It's no longer in a physical place.
Well, Mark, I'm a tech person, but occasionally I do want to defer to the experts to get knowledge on how things work in networking and the internet.
What the hell was that about? She's explaining the cloud to.
She's explaining the cloud
to who? To who?
To whomever was interviewing
the cloud
her.
people.
Joe Neerman shared that with me earlier, and I couldn't help it. I was like.
Well, I watched her rally today, and that was 100% teleprompter. There was no wiggle room. But she had some typos even in the teleprompter. I forget what it was. It was just a silly typo. But these people, it almost looked like a movie version of a presidential campaign, because every once in a while she would say something like, "Oh, we're going to move forward, not go backward." And the audience would chant, "Move forward, not go backward, move forward." And I'm like, whoa, 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 what the hell is this? It seemed like some
campaign by bumper sticker.
No, I'm saying the presentation seemed like it was out of a movie of a fictional presidential candidate. It didn't seem real, is what I'm saying. Did not seem like a real thing.
True. Well, we're, let's add a little more reality to this. A new campaign ad from Donald Trump has come about.
Oh, yeah.
To my queridos, amigos, Latinos, you need to vote for Trump. El Kamala Harris is no bueno. Kamala is mucho pendejo, even more pendejo than Joe Biden. Pero señor Trump, how can Kamala be more pendejo than Joe Biden? Well, she is. Mucho pendejo, no bueno. If you want to earn dinero, you need to el voto for el President Trumpo. Con Trumpo, you will earn mucho dinero. So make sure you vote Trump in 2024. Let's make El America great again. Muchos gracias, amigos. To my querido.
Yeah, you go. So,
dude, it's just absolutely brilliant because of the broken English. That's so perfect? If he was going to do that.
AI.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow.
Speaking of which, I can't play it here. I would have opened with it, but did you see the meme that both Trump and Elon shared that they made of he and Elon doing
the dancing thing?
Yeah, Staying Alive.
Yes, of course we can't play
phenomenal,
it.
But we can't play it.
We can't play it because of Staying Alive. As we can't play Chicago by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. They're now predicting over 100,000 Hamas pro anti-pork Muslims showing up in the Chicago convention next week to demonstrate. Now, they're going to attempt to keep them 17 miles away. But these guys are wily, Hunley. They know how to infiltrate behind enemy lines, as was indicated by the New York police dealing with them in Uptown Manhattan for this rally for Kamala Harris, a dinner fundraiser. This, I don't know if this is shapes up to be the question. Yeah, this is from today, right? That's from Breitbart today. But the other night, complete chaos breaks out on 146th Street at a restaurant in Upper Manhattan, where the mayor was at, and all these Hamas people literally got into the restaurant with smoke bombs and just penetrated behind enemy lines. And of course, the people had to deal with it with New York City police. And a lot of those, I said this to Al one time, those captains get on the front line, those older captains, and man, they were slugging it out with Hamas. It was quite a demonstration of Hamas's balls to get into the face of their particular enemy. And I am hoping, and I think from what I'm hearing, that 100,000 of them will please come to Chicago for the convention. And as Graham Nash sang, we could change the world. And please come to Chicago on the time of the convention.
Especially because I don't have the story and the link, but last weekend, I believe, they were hassling her in Michigan and she lost her shit. So it's perfect there too, because she loses her shit on it. And it's
well,
like, yeah,
not only that, I think Tlaib and the Omar Victory, those are the people who are going to get press passes, which is what happened in Chicago in 1968. That squad and the recently debunked squad people are still in power till January 25th, and they will use their press passes against their arch mortal enemies, the Biden administration, and they will allow them, I believe, to infiltrate behind enemy lines into the convention hall is where I'm going with that.
Yeah. Well, okay. This is another story, because you had talked about it ahead of time, how you were saying that now that Kamala, and this was even before she got picked, now that she's picked, you got to keep her the hell away from Joe Biden.
Yes.
The problem. Well, there's another problem that's coming up, and it's this one here. People are walking out. So they were doing a joint appearance. She talks, turns it over to Joe Biden. Everybody walked out when Joe Biden.
Wow. That's wonderful. Boy, oh boy, this is a cluster F of problems for them, political problems. Now, I presume he's going to be at the convention, but I could be wrong. I don't know if he's going to be at the convention giving a keynote speech.
I think he has to be, realistically, but it's not helping her. I mean, it's just, it's astounding, what's going on here. I've never seen that before.
I've never seen the phrase lame duck yet. For the first time, I'm seeing the actual phrase lame duck president, which is true one way or another.
Yeah, but you see, this is unique to him because, when Al Gore was running in 2000, people were not walking out on Bill Clinton.
Oh, no,
Bill
of
Clinton
course
still
not.
had the juice. When Obama was there and Hillary,
of course.
Nobody walked out. This is unique to Joe Biden, the placeholder.
Well, just to say, we used to have an administration with Nixon and Spiro Agnew, and Agnew was such an entertainment value for your dollar because his speeches were written by the great Pat Buchanan, that he was a headliner at a lot of these things, Agnew, because he was so harsh and stuck it to the Democratic liberals and the left that they stayed around and everybody wanted to see Agnew give a speech, because Nixon was very Nixonian. He didn't really get into any humor or anything. But holy crap, what a great team between Agnew and Pat Buchanan. I just have to remember that. And I've got this new shirt I wanted to show the audience, part of the Watergate bugging team that I thought was, I'm going to add to my collection, Watergate bugging team.
All right.
To commemorate our trip to the library last week, and also the great Jeff Shepard, who will be back again. We had him on for John Dean. I highly recommend you see that, because it's far more in the weeds than the Tucker interview. Tucker did not really have the information that I have, and that Jeff and I could talk together, intelligently about the events, because, not to knock Tucker, but he hasn't read all the Shepard's books and the other stuff. He's not part of this series, but we're going to have Jeff Shepard back just for Judge Sirica the next time, which is going to be great, because I'm trying to keep it into the legal world with Shepard, and he knows everything about Sirica, how he took over these Watergate trials, and I believe broke the law. He believes he should have been impeached. I believe he should have been indicted. It's two separate issues, but either way, we're going to do an episode with Judge Sirica and Jeff Shepard coming up.
Are we going to do anything with Jaworski and Cox and stuff?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's enough there, because they kind of split the baby. It was really the staff that was doing the work of Jaworski, and Cox left pretty quickly. And we covered some of this with Ted Kennedy and Chappaquiddick, and we could do that episode again, but I think the Sirica thing is going to be demonstrative.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because
he knows the lingo, of what Sirica violated, these multiple ex parte hearings that he had in secret, that the defense, if they ever had the information, could have gotten their clients acquitted, according to both me and Shepard, because it really was egregious what Sirica did. I mean, he literally became one of the prosecutors in the multiple cases. I mean, it's really crazy.
That is amazing. Let me see. I wanted to jump forward. This story is literally just breaking, or it was just breaking to me. And hopefully you have a nice flashback moment, because this was a beautiful time.
Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I...
Hey, thank you.
I'm not going to keep going. This is in
thank you,
2000. This is in 2000 and dropped her to like 1% of support, and she dropped out very soon after that. Why I brought it up now, people in the chat are like, breaking. No. What's breaking is Trump has recruited Tulsi as part of his debate training team.
Oh, that's good. There's also that's really helpful. What's also helpful, she'll play Kamala Harris, which is kind of interesting. And it may just be one and out, though, the debates. I mean, she's not going for any more than one.
That might be, but the stronger he can come in, and come in hot. I mean, that destroyed her. That was
the reference to what Tulsi was saying about that guy is what the article was that I sent you about the guy who was on death row.
The actor.
If you look at that case, that story broke today too, about how she laughed in his face when he was sentenced to die on death row, and he was cleared. He was an innocent man, and he's haunted by her cackling laugh in the courtroom when she prosecuted the case against this innocent man. This was wrongfully convicted by Kamala Harris, reveals her sickening taunt. This was an innocent guy convicted by this egregiously unprepared prosecutor named Kamala Harris, who sent him to death row and then laughed about it in the courtroom. And he just kept saying, I'm innocent. And he's got, all kinds of mental problems, now that he's been freed and found to be an innocent man because of Kamala Harris's insane lack of preparedness, and then to laugh in his face. I mean, look, even if he was guilty, I mean, to laugh in the courtroom at the guy you're sentencing to die in the gas chamber is a little much, Eric. This is two different people. There's the cackling, phony, laughing, smiling out in public chick, and then there's the F-bomb dropping, shrill, incredibly harsh Kamala Harris firing, making all of her staff resign character. So there's two different Kamala Harrises here. People are thinking that the external one they're seeing is her. That is not her, my friends. The one behind closed doors is her. The F-bomb dropping and brutally harsh bitch. That's the one I remember from California.
The one whose staff is turned over like 5 or 6 to some crazy number of times.
Yeah, this is an act. This external laughing chick is an act. I know you don't believe it. I know you think she's a moron. She is not. I know you can't understand that. It's complicated, but that is not who she is.
While we're on California and Kamala and Attorney General, the super chat I knew was going to come up. But Mark, what do you think about Nate Hochman endorsing Kamala?
We'll address that at 6:30.
Okay, not that Nate.
That's don't blow the joke, Conley. Thanks.
All right.
You did the best you could, but all right. What else you got?
All right. So, hold on. What do we have? Oh, okay. Well, let's go into
Dealer's
a
choice.
few stories. No, these guys, it's getting worse all the time. Obviously, Trump nearly got assassinated due to complete incompetence, but it doesn't stop.
Wow.
It doesn't stop. The gift keeps on giving. So now you've got this story. I saw it last weekend. It's been going around, talked about for a week. They can't seem to protect, their protectee, but they do manage to protect their own identities when they want to sneak into a building that they break into to use the bathroom. So they're literally burglars into what is this, a hair salon?
Yeah, I didn't know it was a Harris event. I just thought I did not know it was a Kamala Harris event until this morning. I thought it was just some random thing that they were breaking into a salon to use the bathroom, but I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, they literally took over this woman's salon and were using it with coffee and cake in there. Plus the bathroom. I mean, they made it into. I didn't understand. They made it into a base of operations. Besides using the bathroom, they left the back door open when they left. The woman, who's obviously a Democrat, got an apology, so she is okay with other than the fact they left the back door open. It's like that story with Act Blue, where O'Keefe went around and they didn't give a crap that they were being used by the Democrats for money laundering. This place was being used as a base for the Secret Service. Why they did all that, I don't know, but they broke in. You're right.
But look at this, literally covering the camera. So this is showing, obviously, you're doing wrongdoing here when you're hiding it all. It's disgusting. It is completely disgusting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, she said, if they would have come to me, I would have opened the door for them.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, the woman who owned the salon.
Yeah, but that's how they think. I mean, the arrogance is astounding. But don't worry, we've got more. I mean, you always have Trump's detail. We know how effective they are. Trump had an event, I believe it was in North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina. And it was determined that, you know what, we got plenty of agents. He was just shot, a month ago or so. Everything's looking good. We're going to go ahead and head off and go breastfeed our child. So first off, is this bring your child to work day with the presidential protection detail?
Dude, when you Google this story, Newsweek is one of the only mainstream media companies that actually has it. It's when you Google it, you'll see it like Fox. What's that?
Oh, I know. With Fox, NY Post, and Newsweek.
Right. Yeah.
And it's starting to roll out.
Oh, okay. All right. But man, I mean, again, why would you bring your infant? I think it's a holdover from when Cheadle was the director. This woman did not make up this policy of breastfeeding her baby while being on the Trump detail. There's 3 angles to this story. One is the one you're talking about, leaving this guy vulnerable. It's completely insane. Leaving your post, number 2, completely insane for whatever reason. Number 3, the fact that she thought she could breastfeed her baby. Number 4, the fact that she thought she could bring her baby. Number 5, it's a holdover, I think, from the woman director Cheadle, who probably said that this is okay in general, Eric. I don't think this woman agent made up this policy on her own or would have the chutzpah to think that she could get away with this. It must have been something held over.
I had to answer this. No, she did not leave to pump. That would be one thing. She was breastfeeding the child off to the side, which it's beyond.
Wow. I'll tell you something else I didn't realize. The hefty Secret Service agent female who couldn't holster her gun. Apparently, I thought we discussed maybe she was from Homeland Security or maybe she was tobacco and firearms. She was in charge of the entire detail. The girl who couldn't holster her weapon was the field director of that entire operation, Eric. I did not know that.
Yep.
Holy crapola.
Yeah, it is astounding. I mean, I don't. You can't make this shit up. It is.
You can't make it up.
It's getting beyond ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I want to address it with humor because the Olympics just finished, and we're talking about the Secret Service, and there's the famous ray gun with the Olympics, and Tyler Fleischman's an up-and-coming comedian, has a pretty interesting take on all this.
First of all, let me
I cannot stop.
Okay, go ahead.
Stop watching
roll.
the Australian breakdancing videos. I can't stop. Just she would be like, "What? Were you gonna fucking top this?" If you can do a seizure on the ground, you can fucking. If she was a little fatter and a little less coordinated, she could be a Secret Service agent for Donald Trump. Watch those videos back to back. They're doing the same moves. Still no answers about that. Why do we have 3 It's Pat lookalikes protecting the president?
It looks like it's.
They weren't even up to his tits. Like, protect the president's balls. Like they. It's like watching a middle school play when the kids don't know where to go.
All right, I wanted to share
Oh,
that.
that was great. That was pretty good. There's a guy. First of all, I don't know who this person is from Australia. I don't know what that was about. What was that? I didn't really dig into it.
The Australian athlete, female breakdancing athlete, was so bad that breakdancing has officially been removed from the Olympics. So it went on, and now it's been removed. One session.
I have no idea. I remember vaguely laughing a couple of years ago when they said they were going to have breakdancing in the Olympics. Who was on our team? Was there, because there's a guy.
That's all I know.
We did get a bronze. Okay, was there a guy named Crazy Legs on our team? Because Crazy Legs is a kid that I knew from New York who was one of the original breakdancers. He came over to my place. We were trying to put him and his breakdancers in part of an HBO special that I produced. And I heard Crazy Legs, haven't heard from him in years, but he came out and denounced this.
I hope so.
But I don't know if Crazy Legs was on our team. If not, he should have been. Right. Yeah, this was in the early 90s. So Crazy Legs, and this is just crazy. Crazy Legs and 2 other breakdancers, they were like the top sidewalk breakdancers in New York, and I had approached them to be on the show. So the 3 of them came over to my apartment in New York, which was, not the Taj Mahal. This was a 1-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side. And there were 3 of them sitting on my couch, and Crazy Legs said to me, "Why should we be on your HBO special? You can't even afford an apartment." So then they got up and left. That was the last time I saw Crazy Legs until this week when he spoke out against this white Australian breakdancer.
Oh, which is horrible. And okay, I watched one other routine. It was the bronze medal American versus Japanese guy, and I couldn't help but watch it go. I remember the stuff from the 1980s, and it blows this away. I mean, they look like idiots. I mean,
it was ridiculous.
Better than her. I mean, she was just ludicrous. But
I had no idea this was an event.
Yeah, and somebody put out, like the breakdancing championship of the world or whatever, and it's like, that's the breakdancing where they're like going on their knuckles, and I mean,
there was some Midtown,
is athletic
in the late 80s and early 90s in Midtown Manhattan. That was the center of the universe for this thing, and Crazy Legs was one of the top guys in New York. All of them from the Bronx.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I've just seen the footage. It's the best in the. I mean, the better than anything that's now. It's incredible. But all right. So we picked on Kamala for a few. I'm sure we'll get back to it, but we need to talk about the more and more distant third-party candidate or independent candidate.
Yeah, this poor guy. Jesus, what did he do? Eat a cow this week? What happened to him this week?
Oh God! Somebody said, I love it. I saw a cartoon. I should have picked it up, and it was like Tim Walz did something stupid or whatever, and Bobby Kennedy saying, "Hold my bear."
That's funny.
It's like that was classic.
That's funny.
Apparently, this is a very confusing story, so I'm going to depend on you to walk me through it. I do like the take on this article. I believe what he was saying.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, that was my takeaway from that article. He believes that RFK Jr. is not being manipulated by Amaryllis Fox, the former CIA agent, but he is an intel operative himself, which would be even better as a story if that was true. Wow.
There's a lot
of meat there.
It really makes a lot of sense with
Yeah.
his travels,
Yeah.
with his activism. I mean, is he not a Schellenberger, really?
No, I mean, he could be another Schellenberger. I mean, here's a guy who has such a skeleton-filled closet, Eric, for them to work on, for their wily ways. He would be candidate number one in that book. Wow. Yeah. And who knows about Shanahan? I mean, this started because there was an article in the Washington Post, just to back up from this article. This is the New York Post coverage of it. There was an article in the Washington Post that he approached both candidates for asking them if they want his endorsement in exchange for whatever that he could get out of them. Okay, so the Washington Post featured this on the front page. In their headline, it only mentions, of course, Kamala Harris. But in the body of the story, and I believe the second part of the story is true, the first part is not true. I believe he did not try to talk to Kamala Harris. She would not accept it in a million years, but he did go to West Palm Beach, and I believe he did interact with Donald Trump about the offer of a cabinet post for an endorsement. I believe the second part, that's why the Washington Post put that other part in there and made that the headline. I believe the second part. I don't believe the first.
Well, I had read that she didn't take his call. Like he tried,
there was no call.
and
There was no
wouldn't
call.
even take it.
It would be absurd. It would be absurd. I don't believe it happened at all. This is just my take.
Okay.
This is my take. I don't believe there's any interaction. I don't believe he's that stupid. I don't believe he's that naive. I think he's talked to Trump before on the phone. We all saw that. The teaming up of the two of them now with his loss in court. If you look at the timeline, all of it makes sense. He loses in court the residence case. Whether you like it or agree with it or whatever your take is on it, his enemy is the Democratic Party. It was the same law firm and backing that went after Trump with the E.G. Carroll case. That's who got him kicked off the ballot in New York, Eric. The same lawyers funded by the backers of the DNC got him kicked off the ballot in New York State. Okay, now Newsom is going to do the same thing in California because Shanahan and Kennedy are from the same state. So he's going to be kicked off the ballot in the two largest electoral college states in the country, thereby destroying their insane myth that he could somehow win the electoral college vote or whatever their cockamamie story was. They're going to use this, and Kennedy admits this. Kennedy says they're going to use the fact that I listed this incorrect residence on all of his ballot access state applications, Eric. He listed this house in Katona where he said that he resided. He did not. The guy turned out to be a Biden supporter, and he said he kicked him out over a year ago. Okay. He could have, a long time ago, like I did, kept his apartment in New York. Why he didn't do that, I have no freaking idea. He could have maintained a legal residence in New York like I did for many years until it just became too much of a burden. And I'm not running for president. However, Newsom's going to do the same thing in California to him. And ostensibly, this is over. So immediately, we now get these stories of him reaching out to Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. I do not believe, and he came out with a statement personally denouncing Kamala Harris yesterday and her neocon warmonger cabinet and followers. He drove a stake through Kamala Harris's back. He is in no position to exchange his people and his endorsement for a position in her government. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. But what's not crazy is him being the head of the FDA in a Trump administration. What's not crazy is him being the head of the CDC in a Trump administration. What's not crazy,
Fauci's job.
right? Exactly. What's not crazy is They both have been attacked and tried to be pushed off the ballot at Trump and Kennedy. They both have been sued by the same law firm. They both have the same enemy. They're both opposed to endless wars. They're both big supporters of the state of Israel. They're both big supporters of the Jews. And in fact, according to sources now in New York and multiple polls, for the first time in 100 million years, Trump is leading among Jews in New York State 50 to 49, when it's usually a 75-25 split in the Democratic favor. This is an interesting take on the story because not only is he leading among Jews in the city and New York State, they spend money on political campaigns, Eric. Here's the story right here. Stunning lead over her in New York State among the Jews.
I mean, how could he not at this point?
Well, you could say, how could he not? But it's never happened. And
no. I understand that, yeah. But this is a remarkable,
yes,
set of events where she's doing everything but telling them, please die, go away. She's embracing everybody who's a mortal enemy. It would be kind of completely crazy if she didn't lose some ground, for God's sake.
Yeah. But this is you're talking about 30 points in the polls among the Jews. I mean, it's a massive shift.
No, I agree. I mean, and it's the same thing with I don't know if the black vote, how's that going? Because he was doing so well with that on the inroads.
Well, again, with black, no, not the black male vote. We'll talk to Barris when Barris comes on about the black male male vote. As I said repeatedly on the show, and again, for some reason people can't comprehend this, the base of the Democratic Party is single black women. That's why she's the nominee. That is their base. You could say whatever you want about white women or whatever, all a crock of shit. It's all about black single women, which is an oxymoron because 92% of them are single anyway. But that's the base of the Democratic Party. And that is her base. Black males are not the same as black females. And black males have been drifting over. Watch Van Jones. Look at Van Jones on CNN and how he's been trying to explain this to the white liberal overseers on CNN. And he has been, not a fan of Kamala Harris. Let me just put it that way. Not a big fan.
Nobody was until she got a coronation. Except for
but even now, this is since the coronation. Black males do not like to be told what to do by black females, especially who to vote for.
Yeah, I know. Well, especially not a cackling one. Probably gives them nightmares of life at home.
Yeah. Well, her life at home was obviously India and Jamaican goat. So a different story there.
No, even her black father can't stand her. But anyway, while we're speaking of the winning team, Tim Walz. And yes, I know that there's a lot of China, but I'm perfectly fine letting him get beat up about his dishonorable service.
Yeah.
China could come later. It's the rest of his career. But this is a beautiful story. So, okay. We all know about his retirement because he found out, it looks like I'm going to Iraq. Or, and everybody's like, no, he was going to retire anyway. He had the time in, blah, 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 blah. Well, apparently he campaigned on the fact that he would be deployed to Iraq. So, it'd make him look good as a soldier. And then, then it came, he pulled the pin and retired. And why is this so significant? Look, I don't blame somebody who has 20 years in or whatever. If they want to retire, there's a work amount, fine. But when you are a leader of men, and that is a command sergeant major, remember, he was the top enlisted person in his unit. So all these people are depending on him. They're the soldiers under him. When you make that kind of commitment to life, you are saying, I will lead you troops. I am here for you. Generally, their families are left behind because they have dedicated their lives to be a leader of men.
Right. Wow.
This is not the same thing. He's not a mid-level person that was saying, you know what, I did my time. I'm over it. This is supposedly a leader. And it's despicable.
When is the Vance Walz debate? Because that's going to be
agreed to it September 1st?
4th, 2nd or something?
Early September.
Yeah, it's early September, so they could recover from the damage done in that debate. And he will inflict mortal wounds onto the fat, scurrilous body of this cat who eventually, now I believe he is a Manchurian candidate for the Communist Chinese Party.
Oh, they're saying October 1st. Oh.
Okay, October 1st.
Better still, closer to the
better
election.
still, later the better. I believe that he is a Manchurian candidate for the ultimate Manchurian candidate for the Communist Chinese Communist Party, and I believe his rise to VP and them waiting out for him to run for president is why they invested in Tim Walz as their Manchurian candidate. I believe his 30 trips to China will back that up. I believe that he, according to sources, received security clearance from the Communist Chinese Party to go in there. He had celebrated his anniversary there famously. I believe it was June 4th, the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. He has paid and shown enough favoritism towards the Chinese where they are now in bed with him. And I believe that the money that's flowing through Act Blue, through that crazy thing that James O'Keefe revealed, which is now going to lead to hearings in the House, is communist Chinese money. I believe that's where that money's coming from. And I believe her money, a lot of it is communist Chinese money. And I think eventually, and the Democrats have a history of this. Even under Clinton, there was a guy who was arrested who was a communist Chinese money source. This is not unusual for the Democrats. I believe that they're looking to buy this election, not for the purposes of Kamala Harris, it's for the purposes of Tim Walz. He's their Manchurian candidate. He's the guy that they want to get in there as a communist Chinese stooge to do their bidding.
I agree. And China is so dangerous. They're getting more dangerous all the time.
And patient.
People don't understand.
Well, they don't mind waiting 8 years or 4 years or 12 years.
They're getting less patient, though, because they are facing extreme depopulation. India has already taken over as the largest country in the world. China, with their one-child policy, is causing huge effects. So they have overbuilt. You're going to see half of their buildings empty, things like that. And with that depopulation, it's making them more and more and more desperate to cling on to whatever power you can. And when somebody's wounded, a wounded animal is a very dangerous animal, especially China, which is incredibly scary. And having him in there, and God knows how many others are like Tim Walz. I mean, I'm sure not alone.
I don't know, but I think they're putting their eggs in that Tim Walz basket of becoming a president who is actually linked to them intellectually, physically, financially, spiritually, politically. This is their Manchurian candidate. And I don't mean that he's brainwashed, but of course he is brainwashed because he's bought into the communist Chinese lie and their politics. So there is that brainwashing. So I use that phrase, Manchurian candidate.
Yeah, those who are saying they canceled it years ago. Well, these things take generations to pick up. The one-child policy, you're seeing the effects later, obviously. But anyway, let's go on to our assassination attempt. A new story just came out that's under the radar, but very interesting. Apparently, FBI released Thomas Crooks' body for cremation. Days after the hearing. Now, I do think it's weird that we had Clay Higgins wanting to
tell him who
Clay
Higgins
himself.
Tell him who
he's
Higgins
a Louisiana representative. Now, I don't know if he's a doctor or a undertaker, but I'm wondering why he personally was wanting to examine a body. I'm sure he's perfectly qualified, just is wondering why.
I don't know, but even the coroner said that the body was taken away, and the coroner was opposed to the move. This is right out of Dallas. This is right out of taking out the body of the president and doing stuff with it to prevent the. I don't know if they did a toxicology report.
That was my concern.
Yeah, I mean, this body, obviously, the FBI hosed down the roof. They did away with all the evidence on the roof. They then opened up the roof, made it into a Mardi Gras up there at the crime scene, which I said to you at the time was insane. The fact that everybody was doing broadcasts from literally the grassy knoll. I mean, there would be the equivalent of that. And now the body being cremated by the FBI turning it over. I assume to his parents to have it cremated. I don't think the they're alleging the FBI did it, but what Higgins is saying is the FBI came in and took the body from the coroner.
Yeah,
and had it cremated.
Which is very, very weird. And
again, for the 9 million story, not involving his parents, a story that lends itself journalistically to knocking on the door of the parents saying, did you cremate your own son? Or whatever question you want to ask that fat guy and his wife. What are they, protected by the Secret Service over there? Like Marina Oswald was for months? Is that what's going on? I mean, Marina Oswald was taken to Six Flags, a little bit south of Dallas, and put into a motel and protected for months by the Secret Service to keep her away from the media. Is that what these parents are have to them? I mean, what is the deal over there? If I go and knock on the door, is some SWAT team going to take me down? Could somebody out there please go over to Butler, PA, and knock on their parents' door and just say, can I do an interview with you? And film that. If they say no, okay, that's a story. If you're intervened, though, by police authorities, that's our government money now blocking the First Amendment. And that's why it's important, folks.
Yeah, I don't know. And in terms of the parents, if they cremated their kid or whatever, well, their parents, they could do that. It's not, not unheard of. The FBI pulling the body to give to them, that's the question.
Right.
The questionable part.
Right. It opens up even more questions because the articles have no mention of the parents. A better journalistic take, if I did the article, I would, even if I have no comment, I would have to link the parents to the article saying we phoned the parents of Crooks who had no comment about the cremation. Fine. But you got to do something with the parents. You can't just leave them out of the articles.
Well, I want other questions answered, though. Like, okay, is there any biological material that was retained before he was cremated? Because that's totally if they have 20 vials of blood, I'm not going to feel quite as bad.
Not only that, where was he shot? What was the angle? Who shot him? What happened? What are the wounds? I mean, it's all subject to debate. It's all subject to debate.
Yep. Somebody pointed out, SSRIs are just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, I would like to know everything that.
Crystal meth is the tip of my iceberg, and that leads to some other stories. Once we get into crystal meth and some of the other narcotics involved in these public stories, it could lead us to another story that Eric has got a couple of articles on.
Oh yeah, one that we've covered before. But okay, let's go ahead and jump overseas. This is our Freeform Friday, so we can do that. Don't start yelling at us, people. But hey. We literally have, this is kind of the most amusing story of the week for me. A UK commissioner threatens to extradite and jail US citizens over online posts. Quote, we'll come after you.
Whoa.
So get this straight here. This asshole is claiming that English law that you're going to be able to extradite us over quote unquote hate tweets or whatever you want to determine.
Very strange story.
Give me a freaking break.
Maybe it's expats who are living in the UK who are Americans, Eric.
Well, okay, but if you live in the
what
UK,
if you live there? What if you live there?
That's different because you're on their soil.
You're tweeting on a company that's owned by Elon Musk in the United States.
He explicitly said he would extradite. Extradite means pulling from another country, not internal to England.
I'm just trying to figure out the rationale of what he's saying. I am assuming for reasons that the British are saying this makes some sense. He kept saying it. I assume he's got some sort of reason for saying this.
Well, okay, here's a reporter.
I mean, this is not a sheriff from Dunkey County in some other state. I mean, this is a guy who's got a big responsibility in the United Kingdom.
That may be. That doesn't make him a genius. How many responsible people have we seen here? Well, we've got Elon Musk being threatened. And here we go. This is some twit reporter.
Elon Musk the full force of UK law, even if that means extraditing Elon Musk to the UK to face the UK courts. And may I remind Elon Musk that punishment for inciting division, riots, and hatred in our country comes with a prison sentence of up to 7 years. And Lord Keir Starmer is an accomplished lawyer and prosecutor
Right
who will
on.
not stand by and allow foreign agitators like yourself, whether you're the richest man in the world or not, to bring our country to its knees in this way. Now, I speak as a journalist myself. And what I care about is the truth. But the time has come to shut down X and end the spread of misinformation once and for all. We need trusted media sources and fact-checked media sources to be responsible for the dissemination of information, not a tech bro bigot in Texas who is wasting money on rockets while the world goes hungry. Elon Musk, you are on borrowed time.
Wow.
All right. And I'm saying he's full of shit. I had spoke to some lawyers about this earlier today who the consensus overall was, with some minor exceptions, they're not going to be able to prosecute an American doing something that's legal in America in England. Now, that doesn't mean like if you and I were to do something like that here, making bad comments or whatever, and then we took a little vacation to England, then yeah, they might be able to grab us then or whatever else. But
well, let me ask you this. For many years, we had a sealed indictment that was never released on Julian Assange. Mm-hmm. And we vowed that if he came to American soil, he would be apprehended. We also tried to apprehend Snowden in midair with secret indictments that we had. Now, Snowden was a U.S. citizen and Assange wasn't. So why doesn't it cut the other way? Well, it would, again, if we were to go on the soil, but notice he didn't go on our soil. No, but I'm saying Assange, if things had gone slightly differently, Assange would have been transported to the United States by the Brits to serve time because we had a secret sealed indictment on Julian Assange. So I don't know why it doesn't cut both ways. If they have a sealed indictment against Elon Musk and the Biden administration says we're willing to work with you to send you Elon Musk, why isn't Elon Musk Julian Assange then? Okay, well, Julian Assange was huge. He wasn't Elon Musk huge, but he was huge money-wise, media-wise. Oh, no, I totally agree. But he wasn't writing, quote, hate comments online. He was charged with espionage and handling documents that Bradley, a.k.a. Chelsea, then Chelsea Manning, had taken from the military. Now we're into another situation because that was a direct attack on the United States. That's the way they're prosecuting it. The same way as if a British individual had come over here, committed a hard crime against somebody, murdered somebody or whatever else, then you have an extradition offense. But if Assange was doing something in England that is legal in England, that is not legal here, that we don't like, there's nothing there. He didn't really do anything in England is the point. Remember, he was charged under Swedish law for rape for using excuse me? Yeah, well, minus the word, yeah, because we're on YouTube. Right. So he was charged under Swedish law and the charges were later dropped. And yet now after they were dropped, he said, can I go free? And they said, no, we're holding you because of a secret sealed indictment in a third country now, meaning the United States, another country that he had no legal part or connection to as a citizen. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. What they're doing is just as insane as the Assange thing. I'm going to say it's more insane. I'll stick to that. All right. Anyway, other people under threat legitimately is J.K. Rowling, but she lives over there. Yeah. She's constantly being harassed by them. I agree. She's being harassed. Let's see who they jail first, because they got to get off the pot here on these threats, and they are threats. I'm sure they would like these things to go away, but they're experienced something that we've experienced here over 50 years ago, and that's race riots. Yeah. Well, and to continue on, this one I just kind of find amusing. We've got Amin Khalif, who is suing both J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk in French court. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. Right.
Because,
Yeah.
again, it's a similar principle. And now we're not even talking about criminal. We're talking about, well, I don't even know.
What did Musk do to her, or what was his crime?
Oh, but
owning the platform, or
oh no, I guess it would be criminal. Supposedly because they said that this is a male competing in a female event or whatever. That's
okay.
That's deemed a quote hate crime now.
Well, you can ask the World Olympic boxing thing that banned her right before the Olympics. Then, I mean, there's precedent for what they're saying. She was banned because of XY chromosomes prior to this by an official body. It's not like these guys made it up.
I know. It's really an interesting scenario. Again, what's France going to do though? I mean, it's going to be like, let's say she wins the judgment. Well, then what? How does France enforce it? Now, maybe they could say Twitter has a presence there, and they can get at him that way. I don't know.
They could say what they did with Henry Kissinger, that if he comes to Belgium or Brussels, in that case, that he would have been arrested because he was tried in absentia in the International Court in The Hague and convicted. I don't remember the exact details of the Kissinger one. But they could say that if he comes to France, he'll be arrested in France. So,
which circles us back. The bottom line is, don't vacation somewhere where you're hated.
Well, it depends. You mean as a celebrity, Tom, or
no? If they despise you and they want you, you probably don't want a vacation in the country.
Right, but who would know you or me? I mean, we could get. They're not going to know who we are. I mean, it's really a celebrity-driven indictment because of who they are as public figures.
Right. Well,
I mean, he doesn't have to go to France. I mean, they're going after big fish because the little fish are not going to get them any change. They want Elon Musk, and they're not going to stop with this Musk thing. So we'll see where this goes, because I think a lot of people are his enemies now. I mean, the amount of information the EU press office put out about this simple spaces meetup with Trump and Musk, you would think it was the beginning of the end of the world, that they were simply having a conversation, Eric. That document was insane, as was the document. I don't know if you read it. I read it, put out by the Kamala Harris campaign about that same event. You would have thought this was Hitler meeting with Mussolini. I mean, it's so insane, the wording of it.
Well, they fear it. I mean, think about
I know,
the reach.
but they worded
a billion
it,
people.
Right, but the wording of the documents, I strongly recommend people read these documents to see where Kamala Harris is coming from, even though, look, it could have been written by somebody else. But in her rally today, and she talked about policy, she never said the word I. It was always we. We, the communist cabal around us, is we. Trump says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's who you're going to get. With her, she's clearly telling you it's we. Who the other we are, she's not telling you. But she is telling you repeatedly, and she must have said it 500 times today, we are going to do this. We feel this. We are going to change this. Over and over and over again, she said we.
I like this one. Double X is suing X. Why?
That's funny. That's funny.
I do like that. All right. Well, speaking of Kamala and word choices, have you seen this story? This one was very interesting.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Her team is editing news headlines on ads. So they take a normal headline, then they modify the headline, then they put it out as an ad. And it's affecting papers like The Guardian, New York Times, etc. And this is not just being reported by, let's just say it's being reported by Axios, who is not a right-wing bastion.
No, I mean,
any means.
They put the word sponsored up there in tiny letters. And these are phony news headlines. And people were mocking me because I called for the investigation of the Harris campaign over the receipt of money from the Biden campaign and over the delegates. And I called on a House investigation on the Judiciary Committee, and people were mocking me. And I want to go on the offensive. And I don't know where it would go, but at least it would throw a monkey wrench into their campaign. Every single person said the wrong vacation. You don't know what you're talking about. It can never happen. Well, Massey has called for immediate House hearings into this in the House.
And can I point out that the fact that it says sponsored and paid for by the campaign is 100% irrelevant because we've seen this before where a campaign will take a headline, an actual story, and say, look how good it makes us look. They are creating fictional stories. So they're complete, utter lies. And people make an assumption because they've seen it, for many, many campaigns before, a sponsored thing of a legitimate story saying, look. Anyway, so this is
right.
dark.
They're going to leave the word sponsor out of their reprinting of this. This was just to get it into those publications. The publications did not know. They're the ones who are outraged, is the publications, Eric. They're the ones calling for an investigation. Now, Massey said he's going to have hearings about it, so we'll see what happens with the hearings.
As they should be. And anyway, this is, of course, tying in with Google. And lately in news, Google, lost that historic, case, the antitrust case, except I had a black pill moment earlier this week. I interviewed Robert Epstein.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that he was saying that this is a complete Pyrrhic victory. Yeah. That the people who wanted the antitrust case to go forward was Google themselves.
Wow.
Because they were going after Google on consumer protection grounds and things like that, which would truly harm them. But they said, oh, why don't you just go after us as a monopoly? What? And everybody bid on it because, as he put it, it's a search engine. You can't break up a search engine. It's too much of a cluster in itself. So it's just BS. So everybody can say, look, we got him. We're determining it, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you can't break that up.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a dark moment to hear about that coming from him. So,
well, I just want to address this, the situation with our guest coming up. So maybe we promised him at the bottom of the hour that we'd bring him on. We only got about 15 minutes with our guest, our comeback guest of the year. This is the original Nate Hochman, who was brought to you by Nabisco. The other Nate Hochman we're going to discuss with the young Nate Hochman, I'm calling Hochman the younger, is going to come on, and we're going to discuss Hochman the elder. But Nate Hochman was voted most likely to achieve greatness as a Hochman by our audience this year. So he got most of the votes. This particular Hochman, I believe, agrees with Hunley and I politically. So we might be able to let him speak for himself on the election and see what his take is on it, Eric.
When he comes, he's not here yet. So
okay, so when he does come here, Hunley will let you know that Hochman is here to talk to us about Hochman-esque things that only a Hochman, a real when I say Hochman, I say that with a Hoch, and he'll be here pretty soon, unless he's tied up doing Hochman type things.
If there's a Hochman meeting somewhere,
a meeting of the Hoch, maybe they're buying off this Hochman too, and we'll get into that. But maybe okay, so let's go on with the next story while we wait.
All right, well,
for Hochman to put his pants on.
Well, let's just spit to California.
Oh my God, this is a crazy story. Like
there's a lot to chew on here. Yeah, well, 5 people, including his assistant, 2 doctors, arrested, and this makes me think of what you were saying, that he's a celebrity, so his life is worth more than all the other drug addicts who get hot shots.
Let me tell you something: 99,999 dead fentanyl addicts did not have the FBI, DEA, and LAPD and the sheriff's department finding out who gave them fentanyl. I'll just put it out there numerically. This guy had the full weight of the drug enforcement community going after the people who gave him ketamine, which is kind of funny. There's a lot of humor in this thing because obviously I watched the press conference. The press conference announced these 2 doctors, Chavez and a guy named Placentia out of California, 2 actual doctors who were the source of ketamine for Matthew Perry. and they make it out as if Matthew Perry is deceived or somehow a victim, Hunley, of these nefarious doctors who one of them said, how much money could we get out of this moron? I don't know if that's a guilty plea or not, but nevertheless, Matthew Perry was not an innocent victim in this particular case. He was paying 12. Okay, well, let's just we finish this really quickly. We'll come back to this after Hochman leaves, because Hochman's got a busy schedule. Anyway, we'll get into this case. There's a woman called the Ketamine Queen, who everyone knows in Hollywood. She attends the Oscars. These are not street level people. I'll just put it that way. We're going to get back to this case, but they made it out to seem like this Matthew Perry was an innocent victim of these nefarious people trying to make money off him. And that's far from the case. And like I said before, regular people do not get this treatment. Only if you're a celebrity. It's happened with John Belushi. They go after the dealers because it's just a high-profile celebrity case, and somebody rang up their phone. And in this case, I believe the people who made the phone calls was NBC Universal because they wanted Matthew Perry's image to remain intact. And we'll get back to that after the Hochman appearance.
All right, so Nate,
wait a minute. Where's the other guy? What the hell's going on here?
I'm here on purpose this time.
What the hell are you doing? I was looking for the other Hochman.
You know, a lot of people got I posted, I think I tagged you guys. I posted like a clip of that on Twitter, and it kind of blew up. I think it got like 1,000 likes. A lot of people got a kick out of it. So the first thing when I came in today,
me a Chinik here, Hochman, with your phony. I don't even think you're the real Hochman. I think there's others.
I know.
What's been going on?
Here. Where's
Nate? What have you been up to since the last time we saw you?
Let's see. Well, DC is getting crazier and crazier by the day, as it does, 90 days out from an election. So most of my time has been spent, either putting out fires here or participating in setting fires. This is the first presidential election I think I've been in DC. So this is my first kind of time, but the whole city revolves around politics.
Tell them tell us the name of your organization for people at home.
America 2100. We're America_2100 on Twitter.
And where can they find you on Twitter?
At NJ Hochman, NJHOCHMAN.
Okay, let's continue with our story then. You had come on previously as a mistaken identity. We originally wanted the future district attorney of Los Angeles to come on. We got you, and then we got him. So it was a happy ending at that point. But now the story's changed, and we are now forced to ask you to give us a comment on the new story about the other Nate Hochman. Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of what happened with the other Nate Hochman.
Yeah.
And I wanted to read you a statement to kind of explain the feeling that I had about Nate Hochman by Steve Cooley, who is the former district attorney of Los Angeles. Before there was Gascon. Steve Cooley emailed me last night, and I asked him about these developments about Nathan Hochman endorsing Kamala Harris. And he said the following: his endorsing Kamala Harris for some perceived political advantage is unprincipled and cynical, leave alone unnecessary. I am disgusted, and I have received many texts and emails expressing that same view and worse about him endorsing Kamala Harris for president. Hochman has lost support and respect in many quarters. And that's from the former district attorney of Los Angeles, Steve Cooley, who was a Republican. Nathan Hochman was in the Justice Department for the Bush administration. He ran as a Republican for Attorney General of California and lost to Bonta, who is the current Attorney General of the state of California. The district attorney's office is not a political office. It's an independent candidacy in Los Angeles. So he was running as an independent, but he's got a long history, obviously. He just ran against Bonta as Attorney General as a Republican. And literally 3 nights ago, he announced that he was supporting Kamala Harris for president. And he was on with Alex Michelson on local Fox in Los Angeles. And even they were shocked by this. And they asked him, Why would you be endorsing her? You just said you're an apolitical person. The office is apolitical. You've run as a Republican. You've been a Republican. And he simply said, if it's a choice between a convicted felon and a prosecutor, I'm going to go with the prosecutor every single time. I just wanted to get your opinion as Nate Hochman about the other Nate Hochman's egregious endorsement of Kamala Harris. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about it. I think the sort of disclaimer I should get out of the way is I'm not as close to the ground, to the race on the ground as he is. I'm not as close to it as you guys are. So you guys are experts. I'm an outsider.
Well, let me interject that information. George Gascon, the avowed Marxist, has been cut off of George Soros money and is not actively campaigning for re-election. There's only two people he's going to win by a landslide simply because of the numbers involved. He did not need to endorse Kamala Harris, which is what Steve Cooley is referring to. This was completely egregious on his part and politically unnecessary to win this election, which he's going to win by a landslide anyway. That's why people are scratching their heads, Nate.
Well, yeah, even if that wasn't true, I'd be scratching my head for reasons I'll get into, but I didn't know that. I mean, that makes it even more egregious because my attempt to sort of steel man it, right? Straw man versus steel man there, where I give him the benefit of the doubt is like, look, maybe he's seeing some poll numbers that I'm not seeing. Maybe it's a tight race. If that's what he has to do to win that election, like I can't be super upset about it, although I'd still probably be a little upset about it. But the fact that he's on track to win in a landslide, I mean, I think even if it was a tight race, it would be stupid. I think it would be politically stupid because people forget California is a blue state. There are Republicans in California. It actually has the most, in sheer numbers, California is home to the most Republicans of any state in the country. I'm sure you guys know this, right? So there are Republican voters in Los Angeles, probably tens of thousands, right? Like, so he's alienating them by doing that. And the question is like cost benefit trade-offs. You pull in more voters than you alienate just by doing that. I don't think so. Because I really don't think people like that many voters are looking at him like, moderate Democrats who might vote for him and going, I was thinking about voting this guy, but he hasn't endorsed Kamala Harris, so like, I just can't vote with him until, right? Like, so he forced the issue. He made a negative news story about himself that didn't please anybody, probably angered everybody, made him look more partisan when I thought his whole message was about being,
that's what Michelson said to him. He said the office is nonpartisan. Why are you politicizing this? And he just simply said what I said about Trump versus Harris, prosecutor versus convicted felon.
And that comment, like that to me was what really
incendiary.
It's because that is he's not just doing this kind of like I endorse her because I want to win as a Republican and Democrat state. Like that is appropriating the most like rank partisan, disgusting, lawfare left, like burn the Constitution rhetoric that you hear from the most hacky partisan Democratic apparatchiks on MSNBC, right? They don't even talk that way sometimes on like center-left outlets, right? Like the New York Times is above talking that way a lot of the times, right? So he's appropriating like MSNBC, pink pussy hat wine mom liberalism, maybe because that's like his, that's his demographic he's trying to appeal to. But that is like, you're not just endorsing her, you're spitting in the face.
Again,
of
he brought this up on his own. Nobody asked him about the presidential race, nor is it involved in this district attorney's race. I mean,
I have a theory.
Go ahead, Eric.
What administration did he work for again?
The Bush administration.
Yeah, and who else worked there? Cheney.
Oh, that's such a stretch. I mean, this guy's had other things. He was running for Attorney General of California. I mean, look, is he a rhino? Obviously. That's okay.
But why would he go out of his way? And let's say
we don't know. That's why we're having this conversation.
I'm saying a phone call from his former boss, whatever.
Well, I don't even think it has to be Cheney. I mean, having worked for 4 years in conservative politics in D.C., I can tell you, regardless of whether he directly talked to Cheney, everyone knows. There's some honorable exceptions, to be fair. Everyone knows Bush alumni are the never Trumpers, right? If you're a Bush admin alumni, maybe you can prove to me that you're actually, a Trump supporter and you're on my side, but I'm going to approach the conversation with a degree of preemptive caution because the Bush alumni in DC are the people who were the most aggressive about working to undermine Trump during his administration and were the first Republicans to disavow him when he was out of office and to try to, endorse other people in the primaries. But everyone knows Bush Republicans hate Trump Republicans. So regardless of whether he talked to Cheney, all of his friends from the admin, it's probably representative of his worldview too. Like, this guy was not a Trump Republican. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that.
Right, but I'm saying, here's the guy.
Yeah.
Here's the guy right before him, Steve Cooley, and everyone else who was a district attorney. And Cooley's a Trump guy, and all of these other people in that circle of friends are Trumpers out there. And this guy comes out of left field and simply makes this statement for reasons that unless somebody made a phone call saying we're going to kill your children, I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Right, and I just learned on this show that he actually had like a clean, clear path to victory. That to me makes it way more egregious, right?
Yeah, he's not even campaigning, Gascon, and he has had his money spigot turned off by Soros over a year ago. So there's not even a campaign.
So the double or the second negative consequence of this for my doppelganger, for the other Nate Hochman, is not just that it pisses off a bunch of voters, but it also probably puts a ceiling on his political ambitions, right? Because if he is a Republican and he, gets there, usually a lot of times people see this as a stepping stone to higher office. You can still win, certain positions as a Republican in California, maybe not statewide, but they're congressmen, et cetera. In the next Republican primary he runs on, that's what he's going to be tarred as. His primary opponents are going to it's over. So he just killed his political career. He might win this office, but he can't go anywhere up from there.
Right. Maybe that's what he wants, is this one job for the rest of his life, and thinking that if I make this statement now, I can coast to re-election for the rest of my life and be the DA for the rest of my life.
Well, that is a spot that some people settle in. I mean,
absolutely. Look at Morgenthau in New York. I mean, it went on for decade after decade after decade. I mean, it is a coveted spot longevity-wise.
But this guy ran for California AG before this, right? So
6 months prior.
Right. So it's not like he's someone who's been dreaming for years of specifically being a Los Angeles County DA, right? Like,
absolutely not. Absolutely not. But born and raised in Beverly Hills High School. I mean, this guy's got his family there, his community's there. I mean, people are shocked that this happened the other night.
It's so bizarre. The fact that he had a clear path to victory like that, I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because maybe that's what he needed to do to win. And while I wouldn't have been happy about it, I understand it's California, blue state Republicans, they got to say stuff like that sometimes, right?
Put it this way, Adam Schiff is leading Steve Garvey in the Senate race by 33 points.
There you go. I'm from Oregon, and it's probably bluer than California. Yeah. And, Republicans who do occasionally manage to win things in Oregon, they say a lot of stuff where I'm like, man, I would get mad at that if they were a national Republican, but they're running in Oregon, right? So I get it. You have to say stuff like that. But it doesn't sound like that was the dynamic here,
No. And also with Steve Garvey, who refused to go to the convention, refused to embrace Trump, now running against Schiff, and he loses by a landslide.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Isn't that the memo that we're learning, Nate? I mean, these people who refuse to embrace him go down in flames,
or at least shut up. I mean, we didn't expect Hochman to endorse him or do anything. He just ignored.
No, but he brought it up. Dude, if somebody had said it to him, I would give him some street cred. But he brought this up.
Yeah, and it'd be one thing like if he was getting hammered in a competitive race by opponents about he's a Trump Republican, he loves Trump, right? Then like maybe you got to do at least a disavowal of Trump, right? If not an endorsement of Harris. But it was a total own goal. And I don't understand.
Well, it's what they did to Larry Elder. They called him the blackface of white supremacy when he ran against Newsom, or as Trump now calls him Newsom, in the recall election. They said he was a Trump guy, and Elder was painted and smeared by that. And that was in a gubernatorial recall. But this never came up. I mean, because people have had it with Gascon, and he's not running, essentially. He's not campaigning.
Yeah. But to a point you were making earlier, Mark, like there's this conception of like how you're supposed to run in a blue state for moderate Republicans, which you were talking about the guy who's like 30 points down in the Senate race, right? All these blue state Republicans think the way you do it is you just immediately distance yourself as far as possible from Trump. You embrace all these liberal positions. You constantly beat the drum about, I don't like Trump. I don't like Trump. I don't like Trump. I'm not like the other bad Republicans that you don't like, right?
Right.
To a certain extent, if you are a blue state Republican, you have to make concessions to assure moderate Democrats. Like, moderate suburban women, you need to win.
Yeah.
They're the ones who might vote for Republican, but they're pro-choice, right? So you can't be super anti-abortion, stuff like that. But there is such a thing as being so squishy that you don't appeal to anyone. Right?
Anyone.
And that's the problem with a lot of these moderate Republicans is they run on this theory of the election where it's like, if I don't take any positions on anything, then I can kind of thread the needle to win. That's not actually how you do it. The good example of like a purple state Republican who ran on a pretty conservative platform to win was Glenn Youngkin in Virginia.
Right,
I was in DC, he's right next to me. And look, he's not as right wing as I would like on every single issue, but he ran on like culture war issues. He ran on critical race theory and gender ideology and parents' rights, the stuff that the media was saying is like the far right agenda, et cetera. But he sounded like a nice, moderate suburban dad. And suburban women and suburbanites who were like moderates who might have voted for Biden agreed with him. That's how you win. You take positions.
Let me hear go ahead. Eric is
going to Youngkin. I'm in Virginia too.
There you go.
A lot of things happen that help drive that forward, like fathers being taken out of meetings after protesting his daughter being injured in a bathroom. So I mean, it wasn't just it wasn't just we're going for anti-woke. It was no, parent needs are being ignored no matter what side of the aisle you are on. Hell, these fathers probably were Democrats themselves who were fighting against it. So I personally think that the right wing tends to be able to make inroads when crime becomes the main issue. The woke policies to me dovetail with crime. Immigration dovetails with crime. All of these things are people who are stealing from the community eventually gets tired of it and they are willing to bring a Republican in. I think that's why Youngkin got in. I don't know that he'll be followed up with another Republican, not in Virginia, which is pretty much blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you're exactly right, Eric.
I wanted to ask you something about Tim Walz while we had you on because Walz, and Eric is right about, they're going after him on the stolen valor thing. But he's got all this extra baggage about China, Nate, about 30 trips to China, about being cleared for security reasons by the Chinese Communist Party, by being embraced by them, by celebrating Tiananmen Square with his wife on their anniversary. When do we get to the China part of the Tim Walz saga, in your humble opinion?
Well, look, it's something that Republicans need to be hammering him on, because not only is it obviously objectively an issue for someone who's running to be vice president of the United States, but it's also actually, American public opinion is turned very sharply against China over the last decade, right? So it's a effective political attack too. Like, this guy's going to sell you out to our enemies. Walz is like the problem with that line of attack, that vector of attack. It's particularly egregious for Walz. But I mean, again, I can tell you, working in DC, like every politician who's been in office anytime before the last decade, like, has Chinese skeletons in his closet. Our entire political class was in varying levels of in bed with China. Walz is particularly egregious, but like a lot of Republicans still haven't had their day in court yet when it comes to Chinese connections. So that's the reason I think a lot of Republicans.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. That makes some sense. They may not want to open that closet door, you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
And the younger people coming up, because there's been this separation of China and America. It's the younger politicians coming up. To be fair, probably on both sides of the aisle, are less likely to have this history with China.
Right.
But if you were the baggage. Exactly. If you were a congressman in the early 2000s, like, you were taking business trips to China, that's just what congressmen did.
What's his name? Swalwell having Fang Fang, you're saying, is quite common. Everyone's got a Fang Fang.
Yeah, it is true, definitely, that some people literally have a Fang Fang, but but everyone has a metaphorical Fang Fang, whether or not they had a Chinese mistress.
Okay. All right.
But they do. I mean, the Chinese influence operation in America is deeper even than a lot of people understand. Like, they've had for more than a generation now this massive influence operation where they cultivate these things called panda huggers, basically, where they're grooming effectively these young Americans who are on positions up the ladder of power to be pro-China, in the hopes that like some of them break through and become congressmen or become, Wall Street executives.
Well, they took Swalwell from a small town all the way the whole ride. I mean, they had him from the beginning, right?
And that's the crazy thing, right? People don't know that part of the story. I think a lot of people think it's like she came to him when he was, a congressman. They were grooming him way before that. And they have, thousands and thousands of pans in the oven, basically, what
Right.
they're doing. They call them panda huggers. Like there's reports on it. Like it's a whole Chinese project. So it's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, they just brought a panda to the San Diego Zoo, and I'd
yeah.
like to go down there and hug it because I'd like to see the panda. But I don't want to be. I don't want to be tarred with that panda brush. You know, that sounds crazy.
Yeah,
All
those are the good pandas.
Did you see Kamala Harris today, or your organization? I mean, where are you guys now in terms of Kamala Harris's position papers, or dealing with the media, or being interviewed, or anything that she's been doing?
Well, she doesn't have many position papers, which again, she's doing this sort of Obama strategy, which could work, to be fair.
I know.
Where basically you run as taking as few positions as possible, and people can project whatever they want onto you. Right? Obama was a moderate to some people, left-wing progressive to other people, and it worked. Right? Everyone saw what they wanted in him. So that is what she's doing. The problem is, the media bottle service for her over the next few months is going to be like unlike anything I think we've ever seen in modern American political history. They're always biased, but they are full on propaganda machine kicking into gear now. And I'm a little worried it's going to be tough for Republicans to puncture through that because it's a very powerful set of institutions.
I completely agree with you. They talked about the free media that Trump got the first time around, billions of dollars worth of free media. And I think that she's gotten about $2 billion worth of free media the last time I looked. And it puts a couple of dents percentage-wise in the polling. But I mean, there's still some, polling. Rasmussen and I think Trafalgar still have Trump up by 2 to 4 points. But I don't know where those 2 to 4 points are. And I think, and I'll ask you this, and this could be your own opinion on this. Would a endorsement and dropout by RFK Jr. help Trump at this point?
That's an interesting question. I think we talked to RFK last time I was here. You're welcome. It is tough to tell whether or not RFK voters go to Trump or go to Kamala. I think.
Well, I'm talking about with an endorsement, Nate.
And you think you would endorse Trump or Kamala? Trump.
No,
I think you would probably endorse Trump as well.
Yeah, the Kamala thing, he stabbed her in the back yesterday. That's not going to happen.
And there's there's just such different ideologically such different politicians. They have very little in common.
Would a Trump endorsement by RFK help Trump?
I have to imagine it wouldn't hurt, right? Like I don't understand how it possibly could hurt. I don't know. I mean, what's RFK?
Well, there's a lot of anti-vax people over there who may be independents who look at RFK as the great Satan. Yeah.
I think most of those people are going to come home to Trump by election day. That's just a vibe feeling. I don't have evidence right now. It's like he's polling between like 3 and 6% in most polls, which is not nothing in a race that's going to be decided by a percentage point or two.
That's my point.
But a lot of times you have this phenomenon in elections where you have these late breaking voters who come home to their party where, right up until the last few weeks of the election, they're saying they're going to vote their party. And then they go, fine. And then that,
I've been seeing that in Twitter followers who are RFK supporters saying, I'm now switching to Trump. And, of course, you're welcome, but what took you so long?
Right. Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that it would obviously help Trump because a lot of RFK support, I believe, are the Joe Rogans of the world and people who would reluctantly vote for Trump. They're not going to go for Kamala. So it was more that he was pulling away from Trump than he was cultivating on his own. So I personally feel that his support will hopefully just say, I guess I have to still do Trump in the end.
Yeah,
exactly right. Joe Rogan is a good actual example for that demographic of voter. And there's probably like 1 million plus voters that are of this prototype, maybe more in America. They go by a lot of different names. We'll call them barstool conservatives. They used to call them South Park conservatives, like 10 years ago. What's that?
The bro world.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not socially conservative in the religious sense. They're probably moderately pro-choice. They're probably okay with gay marriage, that kind of stuff. But they're anti-woke. They're patriotic. They like America. They don't think it's an evil white supremacist country. And they voted Democrat like 10, 15 years ago, right? They were Clinton Democrats, right? But now they vote Republican or the Republican curious. And a lot of them think Trump's kind of cool, like even if they don't agree with him on everything. And a lot of those guys, I think those are the ones who are going to come home. And it's a lot of young men my age.
Is it Black or African-American young men also, Nate?
it is a larger portion of young black men than I think any Republican has won in modern history. It's still, the black vote is still overwhelmingly going to go for Democrats, right? But it is true that young black men under 40, Trump is performing better with.
He's got a lot of hip hop credibility too. His hip hop credibility is huge, and I think that's significant.
I remember, like, because I grew up in, Portland, where, like, we listened to, mostly we listened to rap growing up, and, like, constantly talking about Trump. Like, he was the guy. He was the aspirational figure. And for the other important thing, and this is sort of counterintuitive, is black people under 40, but particularly black men in this case, don't go to church. And it seems counterintuitive because you think if you're more Christian, you'd be more conservative. But the black church is effectively an arm of the Democratic Party, right? You got souls to the polls. You've got buses waiting outside of Sunday service to cart people to the polls. Politicians show up in the black church when they're coming through to campaign. And if you are disconnected from
when you say the black church, you really mean black Democratic women.
Well, yeah, black Democratic women, obviously, but like the institution, like the black churches are.
But I'm saying that the congregations that they're moving on buses are black Democratic women.
Overwhelmingly, yes.
Overwhelmingly,
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think you got black grandpas who kind of get dragged along.
Yeah. Yep.
But when you have young black men who don't go to church anymore, they don't have that peer pressure, you kind of like Trump. Like, you like his vibe,
Well, that's like barbershop blacks who are male hanging out.
Exactly.
You could use that phrase if you want. I'll give you that phrase.
Barbershop blacks is good. I like that. It's like Barstool conservatives or the white Christians. Barbershop blacks are the black Christians.
Limousine liberals.
Limousine liberals. Yeah.
Liberals.
I like it.
That's a good
but
one.
there have been video clips. I don't know if you've seen some of these of like MSNBC and CNN going into these black barbershops and talking to like young black men. Some very uncomfortable moments where they're like, "Well, you're not voting for Trump, right?" And they're all like, maybe I got a bunch of. There's like a bunch of different ones where they're like, "Raise your hand if you have a friend who's thinking about voting Trump." Everyone raises their hand. Right?
Oh, that's a great question. That is a fantastic
because it gets them off
to get the truth. It gets the truth out.
Yeah, you don't have to say it, but it shows you that. Like, it shows you what the vibe is like in the demographic culture, right? Where it's like, whether or not you're voting for Trump, everyone knows someone who's voting for Trump. You didn't have that with young black men 10, 15 years ago, no way, not even close.
True. Yeah. No, it's a fantastic question. Okay. Well, I got a question for you. Last time we had you on, you weren't revealing the VP pick. Did you know it was Vance at the time?
I didn't know. But the conventional wisdom in DC was that, like, he was far and away the front runner. Depending who you ask, people said he absolutely had it in the bag. But it came down, like, the kind of two finalists. I think it's impossible to know for sure were like Rubio and Vance. But the conventional wisdom was like, it's going to be Vance. So that was, I was pretty sure, but I didn't want to come out and say it because you hear different things, different people tell you things in confidence, that kind of stuff. But like, it was known for a while in DC that Vance was like the guy that was probably going to get it. And then he did. So
are you happy with the result with losing the Senate seat in Ohio?
That's right. I was just going to ask you who DeWine is going to pick. Will DeWine pick a MAGA Republican to replace Vance in the Senate seat?
No. Okay. I mean, look, DeWine is not exactly a MAGA Republican by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
We're going to get like a standard issue Republican, and that was the strongest pro-Vance case against Vance being VP. I heard people make that, right? It's like
that was my case. I made that case. Yeah,
totally.
I made that case. Yeah.
People made that. People who really like DeSantis made that case against electing him president. It was like, we want him in Florida, right? Same sort of point.
I don't even have a beef with Vance. I just want to give up a Senate seat.
No, totally. I mean, it's going to be a Republican, obviously, but it'll be a less good Republican, almost certainly. So it's a gamble, right? If they win, it's great. You got Vance set up, maybe to be the successor to Trump. He runs in 4 years. We get him in the VP slot. If they lose, you lose like the best young Republican senator.
Absolutely.
Which would be a tragedy. So it's a risk.
Yep. I know.
They better win.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a good 50. Look, we got to have you back because the other Hochman's out. He's dead to us.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep bringing you back as the new Hochman, the only Hochman. Let me put it that way. Forget about the other Hochman. There's only one Hochman who's Nate now, and that's you, bro.
Saving the name. You are saving your name.
The other guy's dead to us. The other guy's
show isn't big enough for two Nate Hochmans.
No,
Only one of us
not
can survive.
anymore. Not anymore.
Cage match.
This is a one Hochman show. You're the Hochman. We're going to bring you back every few weeks to give us an update on what's going on, Nate.
I would love that. Let me just say before I go, you guys have the nicest audience of any show I've been on. In DC, everyone's awful. And you get you'd be lucky if you get one positive comment. Everyone hates you, no matter what show you go on. And you guys, your audience was awesome. All the comments I got was great. So
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I hope some of them follow you. And just tell us again where the Twitter address is for you.
At NJ Hochman, NJHOCHMAN.
Do you have anything you want to plug other than that? I mean, Twitter's fine, but do you have like a website you want to plug or a YouTube channel or anything?
No, I basically Twitter's X, I guess, is where I share everything externally.
That's where I see your stuff. All right, Nate, thank you so much for coming on with such short notice. I really appreciate it. But I did want to talk about the other Hochman, how he's dead to us. So that was we do like hearing from you anyway.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I hope we'll chat soon. Take it easy.
Okay, guys. Nate, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right.
Well, that was fun. That was fun.
Always fun. I love how an accident can work out to be such
it's so crazy. Yeah, what I wanted to do was not mention anything about the other guy till he came on and then have him talk about that. But anyway, let's get back to where we were before we had Hochman.
All right, so let's talk about this. That Matthew Perry supposedly is manipulated by a bunch of leeches, which seems kind of true. And you mentioned the quote of how much can we get this sucker to pay us?
Yeah, no, he said moron, actually, not sucker. Moron, he actually said moron. But
forgive me.
Now keep in mind, he had already gone through all the legitimate ketamine mom and pop clinics in Beverly Hills. So now he's gone to the street. And the street in this case meant the ketamine queen who lived in North Hollywood. Now, the ketamine queen is not someone who's a street dealer. This is a woman of immense wealth, dealing multiple drugs to multiple celebrities in Hollywood. And her lifestyle is enormously large. She attends the Oscars. She's at the Grammys. This is not some street level gang member drug dealer, just so people get an idea of what's going on. So this is the type of girl who would roll with a Matthew Perry to a party or be at a party with a Matthew Perry. In this case, she's been dubbed the ketamine queen. Ironically, they raided her house back in March where they pulled in enormous amounts of drugs, but did not arrest her, according to this. This story is very fishy. This is why I wanted to cover this story. They only arrested her 2 days ago. She's now in jail with no bail in the city of Los Angeles, where there is no bail, but she can't get bail. And they are not going to let her out until the trial happens, which may be it's a federal beef. There's federal, Eric. That trial may not be for quite a while. And she is now in prison in Los Angeles with these charges against her, which she pled not guilty to yesterday in open court. She's claiming that she doesn't know anything about this. And that's her story. And in fact, they admit that they raided her house back in March and just arrested her 2 days ago, pulling in all these different drugs. I don't know why they wouldn't arrest her back then. Unless
they want her to flip.
There's more to this story is what I'm getting. Right. There is more to this story. And maybe they wanted to flip on these other doctors. I'm not sure what's going on. The other two doctors are medical doctors, Placentia and Mark Chavez out of San Diego. So they were charging him, I think, like $5,000 to $10,000 for a vial of ketamine, which sells for about $12. But that's the same with a lot of drugs in medical world. The guy who is the interesting guy is Kawasama. I forget how to pronounce his last name, who is this Japanese master chef who has worked with Matthew Perry and been his assistant since 1994. You always, Kamasawa, I think his name was, or Kamarasa. He has been with Matthew Perry a long time. And this Dr. Chavez instructed him on how to inject Matthew Perry with ketamine. There he is. It's hard to pronounce his last name, but he has been a long-time employee. If you see his name, maybe I'd be able to.
It's
Iwamasa. I'm sorry for butchering that. Iwamasa has been with Matthew Perry, and I've seen him with Matthew Perry, even in seeing Matthew Perry around. these are the guys at federal LAPD. This is Chavez, I think. This is the other guy, Placencia.
Yeah.
I think this is.
And this is Chavez.
Okay, yeah, I got them a little backwards. But these two doctors are doctors. They're not street dealers, that's for sure. And this is similar in a lot of ways to the propofol case of Michael Jackson, where the doctor was convicted and they took him down. Again, this is only celebrity justice. There's no other people in the United States who ever get this type of justice for their dead. Again, this happened with Robert De Niro, with his nephew or grandson who OD'd. They went after the dealer. It happened with Philip Seymour Hoffman. It happened with John Belushi. This is celebrity justice when it comes to drugs and alcohol, only, not for regular people. Trump is now saying that this should happen for regular people. Oh, that's an interesting photo.
That's a more recent picture, I think, of his assistant.
Oh, really? Okay, because I've seen him with the crazy hair and I've seen him shaved, so I've seen both. But the reality of it is Matthew Perry was a polyglot drug abuser, and as Dr. Drew and I discussed, not just ketamine, he had multiple benzos in his system. He had buprenorphine in his system. He had different antidepressants in his system. The benzos, and that is Xanax, Valium, that type of drug, was scattered around his bathroom floor.
Isn't that what Jordan Peterson was on? Was benzos?
Yeah, oh yeah,
that they got him into Russia.
Yep. The addiction to that is quite heavy, and he also had heart disease on top of everything else. And they just keep saying it's a ketamine overdose. I've never even heard of a ketamine overdose, that's for sure, in my life. So bizarre drug combinations. Yeah, Drew and I talked about this at the time it happened. He was getting a pharmacy from girls that would come over to visit him. He had a sober companion there. He had a nursing team. He had this is separate with the chef who was also his assistant. He had these medical doctors. He was taking ketamine and had gone to these clinics. Now, what I believe this is about is I believe Big Pharma now wants to take over these mom and pop ketamine clinics and go national with this kind of addictive substance, which is ketamine. It's not as addictive as heroin, but it is addictive. And I think Big Pharma wants to Bigfoot these mom and pop ketamine clinics that have sprung up. And I don't mean like it's a grocery store. These are doctors with small clinics in Beverly Hills. They want to Bigfoot them and roll out this ketamine nationally, because the other typical antidepressants have kind of run their course in terms of sales, in terms of effectiveness. They have run out of gas. And I think, and this is just anecdotal hunch on my part, the reason there's so much law enforcement on this about ketamine is they want to take over the ketamine business like Al Capone. They want to move in on Nitty and his men and take over this business and Bigfoot these small clinics that are running almost experimental antidepressant clinics. And there is some studies that indicate ketamine can work. But
yeah, Dr. Drew was saying that in his interview. And when you mentioned about the overdose,
yeah,
what stuck out of my head is he mentioned that they use ketamine with children a lot because they can give a lot of it and it's not harmful to them.
Well, so it is addictive. It is addictive. So again, all of these things are fine for normal people. When you start to give them to addicts, it gets exacerbated. And the fact that, I mean, he was on Suboxone to block opiates, which was his main drug of choice. And keep in mind, this was a guy, just so you know the depth of his depravity, this was a guy who would go to an open house to buy a house as Matthew Perry, go to Bel Air, go to Brentwood, go to Beverly Hills, where people were still living in their house, but they were on the market. They would identify him as Matthew Perry and be excited. He would immediately go to their bathroom, rifle their medicine cabinets, take all their opiates and leave. And the reason we know this is because he talked about it in his memoir. And once you write a memoir, it's kind of the karmic kiss of death for an addict in recovery. And I said this to Eric at the time, and you could go back on one of the shows. We talked about it about 2 years before his death when he was on this book tour, talking about, laughingly about his drug addiction as if it was over. It was far from over. He lied about his sobriety. He lied to everyone who was working with him. He had like a sober living business, I think with Shapiro, the attorney, like they were partners on a series of sober living homes that went belly up because of bad management. Anyway, make a long story short, he's far from being a victim. Matthew Perry was very sharp and knew how to get drugs. He did not need to be victimized by these two doctors out of San Diego. They were just the last chairs left in a musical chairs situation that addicts who are celebrities go through once they've run out of doctors in LA. They begin to go to doctors in the hinterlands. When I say hinterlands, I mean San Diego and out from Los Angeles. And that's what was going on with this guy. He was being shot up by his assistant, but I think at the end of the day, it was a combination of the benzos, the ketamine, and the fact that he was in a hot tub and nodded out and went underneath the water. But that's not the motivation of the feds. The feds are out for bigger game. They're using this for another reason, and I think it's about big pharma.
Yeah, Dr. Drew compared his death to Whitney Houston and her daughter.
Yeah, very similar, very similar. And they're trying to compare it to Michael Jackson with propofol, and it's not. It's not. Michael Jackson had a literal oxygen tent with that Bahamian doctor administering propofol to him with a mask and a tank and everything else. That was beyond belief. Matthew Perry was functioning on levels far greater than I believe Michael Jackson was at the very end.
All right. Well, we are functioning, and I want to get through some super chats, and we got memberships, got a whole lot of generosity that has come in, starting with the infamous Dick Dickerson has come in.
Hey, I heard that Pew Pew was a foreigner. Is that true? His arch nemesis, Pew Pew, I think is from Denmark.
Is he? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. You should read. I think he emailed you. He's looking for a challenge coin.
Yeah, I definitely will be getting back with him. And I think Dickerson should email me as well.
Yeah, Dickerson's earned the
AmericasUntoldStories.com/contact. Please go ahead and email me, Dick. He also said, I bet Hunley can't say kumquat. And he made up for it here, saying he misspelled the name, autocorrect. No biggie. Yeah, I appreciate it. But what's funny? When I was younger, that used to bother me. Now I'm just like, well, I'm glad they think about me.
I get it all the time, bro. I mean,
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I get it my whole life.
All right, Pamela here. Happy Friday, guys. Today it's been 47 years since one of my favorite people, Elvis Presley, passed away.
We got to cover that story.
We have a story.
We have a story just for Pamela Clifton, who's now obviously solo, not in a relationship any longer with a presidential candidate. She's on the market, boys.
No, she's already chosen Trump. She's made that clear. So don't try to dissuade her.
We'll show that story a little later.
Yeah, because I was trying to find it. I don't see it offhand.
Oh, you didn't see it? Okay.
No, I have a list of stories. It's this long. Pablo said, Mark, what do you think about Nate? We already talked about that, endorsing.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to answer it, because I knew we're going to have the other Nate on. I just wanted him to weigh in.
Thank you, Mike. Dick Dickerson said, did you see the new body cam of the Butler policeman going off on the Secret Service? He said he warned the Secret Service about the roof on the Tuesday before the rally.
Yeah, I mean, she was probably breastfeeding. She's probably breastfeeding.
Could be. Sea Wave Drive. Question: if RFK were to back Trump, would that blow this election cycle for the bid? Tim's, no. Sorry, I don't think.
I think it would help quite a bit.
I think it would help Trump, but
I think the momentum would help. I think the influx of RFK supporters who are looking for a place to go would help. I think it would help with independent voters who haven't decided where to go. That would take the RFK option off the table. And if it wasn't for him being kicked off the ballot, this wouldn't even be an issue. But I mean, because he obviously was going to go to the finish line and lose. There's no path to victory. There wasn't a path to victory before. I've recommended to people on the show that he run for California governor, but that's over 2 years away. He could simply endorse Trump and denounce the neocon Democratic Party and Kamala Harris and have a happy ending to this thing. He's never going to be loved by Democrats. They hate him almost as much as they hate Trump.
More. I think they hate him more.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too.
remember Trump. Well, Trump was a Democrat, but that was a while ago, and we've already worked it out. But they hate anybody who leaves the cult. Anybody who goes against it, that he's an apostate.
Right.
That's worse than a Republican.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked them who they hated more, RFK Jr. or Dick Cheney, they would say RFK Jr.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure. Well, plus, typically when Republicans leave, except for Trump, it becomes a rebuilding campaign. So remember, they're hated while they're in, but they like W now. They're like, oh, he gives candy to Michelle Obama. Aren't they cute? They're cute little sweethearts,
Well, Nixon's in the Trump league, I think.
Yeah, Nixon is. Dick Dickerson gifted 10 America's Untold Stories memberships. Thank you, Dick. Rocking it as usual. I do appreciate it. Mike Schaefer, Kamala Econ Plan, fail.
Yeah, just a lot of promises. I mean, whether people believe them or not is up to them. I mean, she's going to give away anything they can on the earth: free radios, free phones, subscription to Esquire magazine,
or no taxes on tips, except
sounds familiar.
Deciding vote. She's a deciding vote to put the taxes on tips. But now that Trump mentioned it, hey, I like that idea. Did you see Trump's comment on that? I thought it was funny when he said, everybody's still waiting for her to release her plan. He said, but she's not, because she's waiting for mine to come out so she can copy it.
That's funny. That's a good one.
Let me see. C-Wave DR said, RFK said it was fake news on X today. I think that's about
except he said it was real news yesterday.
Yeah, he's all over the place.
Yeah.
Shroomfiend, what's after the Watergate series? Any chance?
I'm not going to tell
Johnny
you.
Winter
Get out of
episode?
here. Who's going to tell you what the next series is going to be? Are you kidding me?
I think there is a chance for a Johnny Winter episode, though.
Johnny Winter. Well, Edgar, I know Edgar. Johnny, I loved. I saw Johnny play, but Edgar, I know. So I don't know about that. How much you could pull out of Johnny Winter?
Oh, the Winters.
Right. Well, I mean, one's a Scientologist, the other one's a junkie. I mean, it's an interesting. It's true. I mean, what can I tell you? It's absolutely. We're both from Beaumont, Mark. Beaumont, Texas. Anybody from Beaumont out there?
Wow.
Beaumont,
right,
Texas.
Doc 5758. What about the rumor that Rikers Island prison is preparing the prison
Not
for
a
Trump's
rumor at all.
arrival?
I expect him to be taken into remanded into custody September 18th. You people are going to be shocked. I don't know where you are, your heads are on this, but Erdogan is the dictator of Turkey, but he's also the judge in this particular case. I think he. What's that?
Oh, okay. Sorry,
I was playing around with the name, but I think he will be, and I'm not alone in this. I think that he will be sentenced September 18th.
Yeah, I think if he could pull it off, yes.
Yeah.
He'd be a hero, even if he doesn't stay in. He'd get that jumpsuit shot and handcuffs. Nothing better.
Yep.
Mike Schaefer, I'm here for the government and I'm here to help. Scariest words in the world. I think it was Reagan who said that the scariest words in the world were I'm here for the government and I'm here to help.
I don't know, but Trump going to jail in Rikers Island is going to be a story that's going to have a lot of legs. I think he'll be sentenced to 6 months in prison, maybe do 4 months. I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but I am sticking to the incarceration theory.
That would be completely bonkers. I hope you're wrong, but
I hope I'm wrong too.
I think it's already remarkable that an assassination attempt has been shoved out of the headlines.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, they tried to jail him at first. That didn't take, so they tried to shoot him. Now they're going to try to jail him again.
Bob Tranquilli's been a member for 11 months. Is glad to be a member. Well, thank you, and thank you for re-upping. I do appreciate that. Let's see. Do you think Trump will? Do you think Kennedy will endorse Trump around the Dem convention? That would
I don't know.
Good.
I think they're going to. That would be a great news stealer. I think he could actually do some physical stuff with him too, which would be great.
It'll be great is if he endorsed him at Butler Farm Show during the Democratic convention.
Whenever he endorsed him, I just think it would clear the field. Now they're going after Jill Stein, which I sent you an article about to get her off the ballot in Wisconsin. They don't want any incremental votes because they know it's a deadlock in the polls. The Republicans can't seem to get their heads out of their ass on any subject whatsoever. But they're now going after Jill Stein to make sure that her 0.5% of the vote is not there anymore. That's how dedicated these people are to winning. Republicans, I got to take my kid to school. If he wins, he wins. Never going to change my lifestyle. Having a Marxist administration is never going to do anything to me because I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's amazing how much stasis you can get out of one political party. It really is astounding compared to the other political party that moves in lockstep and would kill their own mothers to win an election.
Yep. All right. C-Wave DR. How about let's extradite him back to the U.S. for threats against U.S. citizens? That's funny. The police inspector out of England.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'd like that.
We get Dog the Bounty Hunter to bring him back. How about that? That's an episode.
Remember the was it the Max Factor error? Who a bounty hunter pulled out of Mexico?
Oh, right. That was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, because that has happened. That was wild.
Yeah, look, Nixon got Red Rodney out of Morocco, I think, the famous jazz trumpet player for a heroin charge.
All right, PD, if the evidence of the assassination attempt hasn't been preserved and documented, there's your proof that the deep state is alive and well, unconcerned with what the public is able to piece together. Yeah.
Well, that's true. That is true.
Yeah. Frau Featherstone, Britain has gone nuts. Just check out the news coming out from there. It's gone full Orwell. Might need to kick their scarlet butts again. I had to edit this post to get it to post. Orwell and YouTube.
As I said before, when Trump, if he gets back into power, he must launch wars against these two nations, Canada and the UK. And I don't mean physical bullet wars. No, but I mean trade wars. I mean all kinds of wars to bring them back into being constitutional democracies. And I mean cutting off money, cutting off trade, gunboat diplomacy, cutting off arms, whatever it takes to crush these communist rulers in these countries. It cannot go unchallenged simply because, if anything, they're part of the Five Eyes, Eric, of surveillance. I mean, you can't have two of the eyes being two Marxist eyes. And I don't know, I'm not even counting Australia, for Christ's sakes. But these two nations have to be sought after in terms of toppling these communist regimes by Trump once he gets back in power.
I think that I think Canada may be heading that way right now in 2025. Pierre Poilievre, I think is how you say it. I don't know, but it is more and more and more and more popular. Trudeau's losing a ton of ground. So Trump may have an easier time with Canada, with a partner in the wings already.
Okay.
Which would be great because we put a vice on Trudeau. Pete's Guide, Mark, I know you distrust James Files, but his 2003 interview was just reposted to YouTube. What do you think about his claims about Oswald?
It's the same interview. What do I give a shit? What he said? It's not him. It's a rebroadcast of the same interview. What do I give a shit about James Files?
There we go. Jesus says Hochman is aiming for governor.
Okay. Good. Who knows? I don't know. I don't really know, but the Republicans are dead to him now. I mean, every Republican vote, like what party is he going to run for? He's going to run as a Democrat? He just stabbed every Republican in the back.
Yeah, it's insane.
Insane.
I can't wait to hear from Steve Colea directly. He'll be spitting fire.
Yeah, it's funny because, maybe Hochman, he's not an old guy. I mean, he's a young guy with kids in school.
63.
Who?
Hochman, I think he's 63. That's not that
old.
Look
Look 63.
Well, I think that's what they said. His campaign stuff. Jenny's going to ink you with it. What do you think of the Elon Trump combo?
It was fine. I mean, 2 billion people. How many a billion people, Eric? 2 billion?
Well, it's a billion like in the first couple days.
Right.
So it's probably going to have
more. It's got to be more now.
Right. It's probably at 1.5 to 2. I mean, it's going to taper out hard, but a billion people. I mean, there's only 360 million people in the U.S. approximately, and a lot of them are children. So it's got a lot of ears.
Yeah.
Jenny's.
I think he should do it once a week. With I think he should make it into. I think he should make it into a fireside chat.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Keep in mind, he's also back on Twitter and is being sued by people on Truth Social.
That was going to be the worry. I mean, we could cure that whole thing up if they really are a partnership. Elon, you got a little bit more change, just buy Truth and roll it in. Now that would be an easy way to take care of the problem.
Right.
Jenny's going to echo with it. What does Nate think of the influencers refusing to do interviews with Kamala? There's been at least 2 or 3 speaking out publicly about it. Well, he's gone, but that's a good question for down the road.
He's 60 years old. He will be 60.
Oh, okay. 63%.
Yeah. No, he was. Yeah, he's not. He's not. He will be. He's 59. That being said, what was that question about? Oh, the Kamala.
Yeah, influencers refusing to do interviews with her. Interesting.
Well, I know that one who's not a fan is Charlemagne the God. Not a fan. Recently said so in a show starring Charlemagne the God.
What do you want to bet, though? In a couple of weeks, don't worry, he'll be fixed and come around.
The God, Charlemagne?
Yeah, anybody who calls himself that makes me annoyed.
No, I mean, it's a funny name, but I mean, the reality of it is he speaks for a lot of people, has a huge audience and a huge presence. And
no question.
No, but I'm saying he represents the type of male that Nate and I were just talking about, this black barbershop blacks. That is his audience. That's Charlemagne the God's audience.
Right. He also has female co-hosts who are running all over. I'm just saying, I can see it'll be like, you will shut up and da-da-da-da.
Really? Okay.
Well, we'll see.
I'm going to tell him you said that, bro. I'm telling him you said that.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the guy who Biden said.
Charlemagne.
Well, this is the guy who Biden told to his face, if you don't vote Biden, you ain't black. So
right. Look what happened. Look what he did to Biden. Look what happened to Biden because of that.
Well, Biden got in. Steve McMahon said, Mark, what does Ruth Payne have to say about the presidential campaign of Hyena Lady?
No idea, bro. No idea. We'll find out.
All right. Stephen McMahon said, I work 2 miles away from the convention site. Even going to and from work is going to be a trip.
In Chicago, you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's gonna be a disaster. I mean, look, I don't know how close they're gonna get. And I am more interested in the intervention into the building than I am of outdoor protesters, 6 blocks away, where they're going to pen them in. They kind of have this thing down where they're able to pen you in to the protest area. But then again, these are wily cats. These Hamas people are not amateurs. They're pretty wily, and it's not so far. How far is Chicago to Dearborn, people? Look up that on a map, and you'll see how there could be a smooth traffic tunnel from Dearborn to Chicago during that convention.
Well, yeah, and also there's a lot of very sympathetic ears. See, Huma Abedin and others who very well could open the doors, as you put it, like Cori Bush and the others on their way out. Yeah.
Talib and some of the others on the way out. Yeah.
Rustus Android, what do you think Nixon's IQ was?
I have no idea what his IQ
Probably
was.
Pretty high.
I know he had a photographic memory for names. I don't know if that's the same thing as a photographic memory, but everyone that he remembered, he knew every single detail about. And sometimes we didn't see him for over a year. And he would come in and talk to all of us in the custom shop, remembering every single minutia detail that we had ever talked to him about. So I don't know if that's photographic memory or what.
Well, it's obviously a sharp dude. I mean, I'm sure his IQ is higher than average.
Yeah.
Charlie Don't Surf with a super sticker. Thank you. Pasha said, please ask the bad Nate H to come on the show. He just wants a Nate H showdown. Hochman versus Hochman.
No, it would be too uncomfortable, I think. But we'll try. We're going to get Steve Cooley back. So.
No, that would be a good one. Steve Cooley and Nate Hochman.
Young Nate Hochman or old Nate Hochman?
Old one, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying that.
That's not going to happen.
PD, thank you for speaking up about Canada. I think most Americans don't realize the attack on its citizens by the Trudeau government. Remember, it's basically Toronto that put us in this mess.
Right. That's why I keep, yeah. I mean, a lot of it is regional like it is here, but it's just different regions. I mean, we have LA and New York and DC as a troika.
Chicago.
Well, I don't know. I mean, how much really comes out of Chicago? I know Obama came out of there, but Chicago is a place of lefty, but I'm talking about influence, just direct influence. You got a Marxist running Los Angeles. You got DC, you know, as a political nerve center, like where Hochman was talking about. And then you got New York. They've got, like you're saying, Quebec and Toronto and everything, and the rest of the people are subjects to their royal kingdom up there.
Yeah, Alberta, you know, supplies all the money, and the East just takes it.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah.
Basil Bashkov, Mark, you don't believe they'll take another shot at Trump assassination?
If they can get a shot off, they will. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the same thing happened with Gerald Ford. After Ford, Squeaky Fromme, and I think Sarah Jane Moore was a second assassin. People couldn't believe there were 2 assassination attempts on Ford after the first one, but there was a second one. Neither one was successful.
And speaking of second one, he sent the same message twice. So thank you very much. And thank you for both $10 super chats, Basil. Stephen McGann, there are so many of these deep staters who stand to go to prison if Orange prevails. You can bet there will be more attempts until they succeed.
Well, yeah. I expect that the judge in the hush money case, despite the ruling of having a presidential immunity by the United States Supreme Court, is still going to attempt to incarcerate Trump on September 18th.
Yeah. Why not?
Which will save them the trouble of an inept Secret Service that can't even be inept enough to allow an assassination.
Yeah, there you go. That Merchan's not inept. He managed to get a conviction.
Yeah.
We'll run a courtroom to be sure that happened. All right, let's go ahead and jump to our Elvis story for Pamela.
Oh, yeah, it's for Pamela. This Elvis story is kind of interesting because of Riley Keough, who's the daughter of Lisa Marie Presley. This couple, this is kind of interesting. They forged documents to suggest and a phony signature by Lisa Marie Presley, who was passed on due to drugs. And they tried to auction off in an auction Graceland down there in Tennessee, and were caught because Riley Keough blew the whistle and contacted the Tennessee Attorney General, State Attorney General of Tennessee, and they got a judge to put a halt on this. And apparently, they forged documentation of a loan that they claimed that Lisa Marie Presley took out and then never repaid, leading to, this is in the weeds, but leading to a defaulted loan on Gracie Mansion, which is the mayor's mansion. I keep saying Graceland, causing it to be auctioned off by these people who stood to gain the money from the auction. The whole thing was a cock and bull story, and they got caught. It's just a really bold fraud story of phony documents and signatures, Eric. They went to the notary public, and the notary public never notarized that statement, and blah blah blah. So it looks like curtains for them. Now, that being said, I remember being in Graceland when by the way, you're muted, Eric. I just wanted to point that out.
I didn't want to cough in your ear.
That's okay. I don't give a shit. Everybody else does. Being in Graceland, I took a tour of Graceland, a private tour, and the entire refrigerator was filled with, like, I want to say 150 cans of Diet Coke. And I couldn't understand what was going on. I had my photographer, Cleveland Stores from MTV Magazine, and a writer with me, another writer from MTV Magazine. And they took us on a private tour of the plane and Graceland. But he had his uncle still, unbeknownst to us, his uncle still lived on the top floor of Graceland, and he came down in a bathrobe and started screaming at us not to steal his Diet Coke. So that's the Graceland I remember. All
right, there you go. And well, we're on.
And his twin brother is buried out in the back. many Presley fans know.
Okay, on to more entertainment news. Dennis Quaid is baffled by Facebook explanation for throttling promotion of the Reagan biopic.
Weird, Eric. Just totally weird. They keep removing promotions and trailers and stuff for this kind of innocuous. Apparently, he's quite good in it as Reagan, Dennis Quaid, and they keep citing election interference. So Quaid pointed out that
which election?
Right. He says he hasn't been on the ballot in decades, and he's been dead since 2004. And yet Facebook refuses to own up, and they keep lifting the ban and then banning them again and saying that election interference. I think election interference is really, as somebody pointed out to me this morning, election interference is really anything that interferes with their election interference.
Yes.
It's interference in any election that they're affiliated with, not across the board. It doesn't cut both ways, Eric.
Or maybe anything that makes the other party look good.
Well, okay, I'll go with that. But Quaid, turned it into a joke, but he is coming out trying to promote this film, as just as a regular film. And Facebook continues to stab them in the back.
Well, I mean, it's not that unlike a certain show on YouTube, which, by the way, this is almost a perfect parallel, right? They're trying to promote the show. Facebook spanks it all down. It screws with the numbers that he's getting on the show. And then they, oh, I'm sorry. And then they reinstate it, but he's already losing the momentum and the numbers. Kind of like us getting demonetized in the first day and then staying demonetized. We ask for people to look at it and then say, oh, good news. You're monetized now when 95% of our views have gone by and there's no more ad dollars.
Well, again, I don't think he's looking for ad dollars there, but it's a similar. This is the Facebook version of what's happening on YouTube. Yeah,
for sure. All right, let's go and roll out with this one here. You sent me this Trump faces October surprise. It'll hit in September. Is that his going to prison or going to jail?
Yeah. This is Johnny Yoon or John, what's his name? Who was the John Yoo? Yeah, I'm sorry, I was thinking Johnny Yoon, the Hawaiian Korean comic. John Yoo was in the Justice Department under Bush.
Who defended waterboarding, right?
Yeah. And Guantanamo. He wrote remember they couldn't find a guy to write the actual legal defense. They ended up with John Yoo. However, John Yoo in this particular case is pointing out that he expects an October surprise in the Trump thing. And that October surprise will be his incarceration.
Well, okay. Let's go and wrap up with this last story here that you sent and fill me in because I hadn't seen it. Explosive new footage of Capitol Police, Kamala Secret Service suggesting the January 6th pipe bomb hoax was worse than we thought.
Yeah, there's footage that, what's her name? The woman from American Greatness, I forget her name, who has been covering this January 6th story, the blonde, slips my mind right now. Anyway, so she's got footage now showing a guy with a satchel walking by, putting this whatever near the bushes where they found the pipe bomb, and he gets into a DC police car in the driveway, gets out of a DC police car, a different DC police car, walks past the bushes, and that's where they found the pipe bomb. And he gets into another DC police car that's parked in the driveway, and they drive away. In other words, he gets out of one, goes into the bushes right behind the bus stop park bench where they found the pipe bomb, and then gets into, with a satchel, he's in plain clothes, gets into the front seat of another police car that's apparently waiting for him on the left portion of the frame. Amazingly revealing, Julie Kelly, thank you. She was the one showing this new footage, and apparently that entire area was combed, Secret Service, police, bomb-sniffing dogs, everything else. And this was what Kamala Harris said was an attack on her pipe bombs, and that they were going to be detonated in front of the Republican headquarters and in front of Democratic headquarters and in front of her residence or wherever the hell she was at that January 6th moment. And these were, no story has ever been released by the FBI explaining it. No, the guy who did it was never named. There's footage of him doing it. All of this stuff, Julie Kelly is now on top of this story, and it's tied into Kamala Harris because she claimed that this was a threat to her life.
Yeah, that figures. Well, maybe
Right.
her Secret Service person was off breastfeeding. Oh, wait.
Could have been. I think these were phony pipe bombs, by the way, that they were trying to link to the J6ers, was what Julie Kelly was suggesting.
I wouldn't doubt it. All right. Basil Bashkov, agree 100%. Let a Colombian judge put Trump in jail, and a wink and a nod to globalism and Soros.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. And like I said, his family comes from a military junta background in Colombia. I think this is the guy who's going to do the dirty deed for them. Whatever his payoff is, I don't know if that's a Supreme Court nomination by Kamala Harris as the first Latino male Supreme Court judge, Eric, if that's a thing, because Sotomayor, I think, is Puerto Rican, maybe on the way out with diabetes.
Well, they've been trying to push her out.
Yeah. So they may replace her with a Colombian.
Okay. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
We do have a little tiny bit more business to get to before we leave. I definitely hope that people consider checking out the wonderful coin that we have available. And there's a link in the description, americasuntoldstories.com/coin. And we just had a bunch of people get one a week ago today. Feels like it's been 2 weeks. So much time keeps going by so quickly. It's a phenomenal coin. And when we were there in California, both you and I were surprised with our favorite brand of coffee.
Oh,
and
that was
that
weird.
is, of course, our own America's Untold Stories Supreme Breakfast Blend, which I will state is the best breakfast blend coffee on the planet, in my opinion. And since I'm the one drinking it, that's what counts. As I've said before, no cream needed.
This girl Ruby from the hotel went, unbeknownst to us, went on our website, found out that this company was a sponsor for us, bought 2 bags of coffee, put one in each of our rooms as a gift when we got there with some cookies. And then we later brewed it up, and she said, "I don't think I'm making this right." And I said, "Why?" She said, "It's really, really strong. I think I'm mixing it wrong." And I said, "I don't think so. I think that's the coffee itself."
It is, but while it's strong, it's not burnt. Like you get half these coffees, like Starbucks, unfortunately, has put in a burnt flavor coffee and it's gotten to everybody. Caribou coffee, same basic thing, which is now I think called Pete's. All these are burnt. This is not burnt. And normal coffees, I have to put cream in to help counter the burnt and get to kind of a more richness. This coffee is completely rich without cream. So you can even save money on cream, not to mention extra fat in your diet. It is phenomenal coffee. I stand by it. The reviews keep coming in. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. I'm putting them out on X as they come in. And I hope you guys do consider checking it out. It is really good coffee. Stand by it. Both coffee, artist, roaster, the artist who made the coin, both of these folks are veterans, and it's awesome to support veteran-owned businesses. And let's head over to...
Whoa. I just want to give something they could watch while they're drinking the coffee. My movie pick of the week.
Okay, your movie pick of the week is...
There's a movie called, I watched this last night. That's why I sent it to Hunley, because it just happened. My weekend pick for those who want to drink this coffee and watch a movie. I am going to go with a movie starring Eva Green. I don't know if you remember Eva Green from the Bond film, and also Ewan McGregor, who's been around for a number of years. This is a 2011 science fiction romance, if that makes any sense, called Perfect Sense. And I'm not going to give away the plot, but it is a fascinating mind-thinking, mind-bending science fiction film set in England, made in 2011, that I'd recommend for the weekend. I think you'd really like it. It's a real thinking person's film, and science fiction based, so enjoy. And a romance for the ladies. It's both.
All right.
Yeah, it's a couples film. So I this is for the women and for the men combined. If you're a science fiction fan, male, you'll love this. If you're a romance, you'll love Eva Green with Ian McGregor.
And
Perfect sense.
coffee.
Perfect sense. And drink the coffee as you watch it, because the coffee figures in the movie. That's why I'm not going to give it away. Coffee is part of the movie.
All right. Well, we're going to continue this discussion at the Locals after party. There's folks who have a private chat there, and they're sending information. And remember, you can join it on structure.locals.com for free. We have over 18,000 people who are already there waiting for you. So we'll see you there.
It's terrifying.